What's going on, guys? Smash Adams here, and today I'm going to do an updated deck profile on Chaos Dragon Abyss. Now, upon request, I decided to make some minor tweaks here and there to the deck. Even though it wasn't really needed, I figured, you know what, with Allure not being as heavily reliant in the deck, I'd still decided to keep it, but I decided to just kind of limit it because it wasn't much sufficient compared to the rest of the deck. But the deck still flows pretty well with the rest of the other changes I've made. It's a lot of fun, and it's one of my best engines yet next to Lightsworns and just standard dragons alone. And who knows, maybe in the future we'll see where it goes from here. But I figured, you know what, since this is one of my favorite engines, why the hell not? It's a really good deck. So, I'm going to show you all the deck, explain a couple of my tech choices, and without further ado, here is Chaos Dragon Abyss. To start off, of course, we've got triple Lightpulsar Dragon. I figured I would just bump this up to 3 because, yes, at 2, it was good because I was playing around with Allure of Darkness at the time when the ban list came out. But I figured with Lightpulsar next to Dante and the rest of the other key monsters to getting OTKs and all, being one of the most heavily reliant key monsters on the board, yeah, I figured Lightpulsar was going to be an important piece to the OTK factor. So, yeah, 3 is enough, so why not? You can run 2 if you wish. I mean, especially the way I ran it in the past, but I figured 3 was the better option to go off of. Since you have the necessary targets to do so anyway, why not? And plus, he's good to spam off of via hand or graveyard. Next, we got 2 Darkflare Dragons. Now, a lot of people are saying that Darkflare Dragon is not relevant anymore, but I would have to digress because, yeah, even though you are heavily reliant on Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon getting your plays off, I'll say it again, what if it dies? What if it gets banished? What if they decide to just shuffle it back? Or they play Prohibition on it? Because here's the thing, Prohibition is still a card. What if they play anything that blocks you from summoning it? Anything goes in Yu-Gi-Oh! So having another option to go off of is the best option to go for. And especially with 2 of these, it's never a problem. At least not for me. Next we got the Doctor himself, one REDMD, to spam out your dragons via hand or graveyard, just as long as they can be special summoned, of course. No nomies, though. Anyway, 1 Dark Arm Dragon. This card is basically a secondary option for Eclipse Wyvern's targeting ability in the Banish Zone, but in many cases it's never failed me, especially since it's relatively easy to just mill 3 dark monsters into your graveyard anywhere, and it has to be exactly 3. So, who knows? With Dark Arm Dragon, you can just clear your opponent's board depending on what you banish, and then after that, just shave off a few points with not only Red Eyes alone, but with this and a couple of other monsters as well. But yes, Dark Arm Dragon has never failed me next to the rest of the Dragon lineup. And then for the rest, we've got, of course, 1 Eclipse Wyvern. Believe me, if Red Eyes were at 2, this would have bumped up to 2. But, of course, because Red Eyes is one of the best dragons in the game right now, you're gonna be reliant on it and all. But I figured 1 was enough because 2 is a little too cloggy. And for the last, we got 1 tech of Divine Dragon Apocralyph, and it's one of my favorite tech choices overall. Now, someone recommended, why not Genesis Dragon over this? You're kidding, right? Genesis Dragon, you dump a dragon to get back a dragon. That would work if you were using it in Heretics. If I'm not mistaken, Genesis Dragon is a level 6, right? And plus, it's really, really hard to get out. Next to this, you can summon it onto your field, discard a card that clogs your hand a little bit. Not a lot, a little bit. And since you're going to be heavily reliant on Burning Abyss anyway, it can benefit you in the long run via Farfa, Scarm, or anything of that nature, Burning Abyss-wise. And get your Red Eyes, banish it, spam the Red Eyes, activate Red Eyes, spam another dragon. Enough said. Divine Dragon Apocryph is really, really good, and it's really underrated among any other dragon tech that I've played. But yeah, Divine Dragon Apocryph over Genesis Dragon is the better option. And plus, it's a good Allure of Darkness target, too. So, yeah, Divine Dragon Apocralyph, yeah, you guys should look for these. These are really, really good. And now for the rest of the Chaos engine we got, 1 BLS still. It's really, really good, especially for the OTK, and for banishing monsters via face up or face down on your opponent's side, more so than yours. I mean, BLS is all around one of the best Chaos monsters in the game overall, next to Chaos Emperor Dragon, which of course hasn't been errated yet. But if it were errated, it would have been in there by now. But, yeah. Anyway, 2 Chaos Sorcerer. You can get away with 3, but 2 is balanced enough in my opinion, because you're not going to use it a lot unless you're going straight into a rank 6 or just getting rid of a card on your opponent's side, well, more so a monster, then just summoning on the board and then just going for a quick attack. Even though they are really, really fast to summon, since you are going to be dumping lights and darks, they're never a gimmick either. So if you get rid of the other one with an Allure, you can spam the other one just by using the special summon requirements needed. So, yeah, this ratio works out really well, especially for the Chaos monsters. Now for the Burning Abyss lineup, because this is where the deck gets crazy, man. 1 Tour Guide of the Underworld. Believe me, if this were at 2, this deck would have been awesome. But unfortunately, with Beatrice being out and all, and a lot of the Burning Abyss engine complementing this card, there's a reason why this card's limited. It was that good in the beginning when Dante was overpriced. And it's still good today, even at 1. So it's a must with a Burning Abyss engine. You can't run Burning Abyss without this. Otherwise, hang it up. And next we got 3 Scarm to fetch out your Tour Guide or your Burning Abyss monsters in general. 1 Seer to revive a Burning Abyss from your graveyard via Dante, Scarm, anything you want, you've got it. Well, more so the Dante, so that way you can activate its ability and bring back a Burning Abyss monster from your graveyard to your hand. Or just straight to the extra deck if you're getting back a Dante or Virgil or the Pilgrim Reaper. More so the Dante than anything. Because you are, like I said earlier, you're going to be heavily reliant on Dante. 1 Seer to fetch out a Burning Abyss from your deck straight to your field. And, of course, 3 Farfa. Now, I was stating earlier in my last deck profile on Chaos Dragon Abyss that I wanted to run 3, and lo and behold, I have 3. This ratio is actually pretty good. Even though 2 was awesome, I figured 3 was the better option to get more plays going with it. And then, say if I wanted to get rid of a monster that I know needs to just leave the field like right away, even though I know it's going to come back the next turn, I figured running 3 is the better option, especially since it benefits you, especially before a battle phase, or anything of that nature. So, yeah, 3 Farfa is really, really good. And, of course, you can dump it, get a Beatrice, and then still clear the board anyway and get the Beatrice, even though you can't use the ability the minute you get it out. Yeah, Farfa is really, really good in any given situation via Divine Dragon Apocralyph, summoning a Lightpulsar Dragon, or just using it for Beatrice, or just using it in general for Dante. It's you have a lot of options to go for with Farfa and the rest of the other basic Burning Abyss monsters that work with the deck. And speaking of which, we got 1 Rubic, because you do Synchro Summon with Burning Abyss in this deck, and you do still run the Virgil in this deck. 1 Calcab to bounce back your opponent's set, spill, or trap cards. Or also for the rest of the other Burning Abyss lineup, you can just use it as a spamming target to summon, and along with another Burning Abyss monster to go for a first turn Dante play. Next we got 1 Alec, negate a face-up monster effect on your opponent's side. 1 Libic to spam a Burning Abyss from your hand. And lastly, for burn damage, 1 Barbar. You can never go wrong with this card. And especially in an OTK, it's worth it. So if you want to get rid of 3 Burning Abyss and then hit them for 900, and then hit them with a lot of other beaters as well after you clear their board or whatnot, you can do so. And now for the Lightsworn engine, because the Lightsworn engine is important too. And someone said that it's not really needed, but I would have to disagree, because you do need the Lightsworns to gain flexibility. 3 Lumina, basic, And 3 Raiden, self-explanatory, to go for the first turn Michael play if you wish. And 2 Lyla. 8 Lightsworns. That's the best you can go off of. Believe me, if I wanted to run like Raiko, even though it's slow for this format and the upcoming one, I figured, yeah, this lineup is better. And even though I'm not heavily relying on Lyla as much, you can always go for Raiden and Lumina to just go straight into Michael and banish their stuff anyway. You're going to be milling regardless, so anything you can throw at them, it's worth it, especially with this engine alone. So that's it for the monsters. Now onto the spells. The spell lineup is pretty basic, but short, but sweet. 1 Allure of Darkness. Like I said, I was playing around with 3 in the last deck profile, but I figured cutting it down to 2 and adding some other stuff to make it a little more fluent with the Burning Abyss lineup overall, since, like I mentioned, you are going to be reliant on the monsters more so than the spells. This is a better option to go for. Plus, you're going to need draw power for this deck. And you do have a high amount of dark monsters, so why not? 2 Charge of the Light Brigade to recruit whatever Lightsworns you want, and to kind of thin the deck out. So you get 2 benefits for the price of 1 card. Charge of the Light Brigade is good for one reason, and one reason alone, because it works well with anything that revolves the graveyard or milling power. And speaking of which, for draw power and mill power, 3 Solar Recharge. Solar Recharge, yes. I was about to say Soul Charge. You do need draw power for this deck, so with that and Allure overall, and Charge of the Light Brigade, you can't go wrong. And now for the extra deck lineup, it hasn't changed, so I'm just going to go up front with it. 3 Dante, self-explanatory. This and Lightpulsar alone are what's going to help you win games, if not the rest of the Chaos Engine itself. So relying on Dante in any given situation is the best thing that could ever happen to you via first turn or second turn or anything that comes your way. Dante can benefit you in the long run, especially since it has 25D. As long as they don't get anything higher to just get rid of it, you can never go wrong with Dante. And then, of course, we've got, let me get these out of the way, 1 Castell, self-explanatory, 1 101, and 1 Queen Dragon Gen. You don't rely on them as much, but they are useful at times, so be prepared when you need to use them. So I wish Minerva were reprinted, otherwise I would have probably taken out the Queen Dragon Gen, but still, it's really, really good. Next we got 1 Beatrice. You can get it out with 2 level 6s, if not just summoning it off of a Dante alone by discarding a Burning Abyss. And it's really good to get out your Pilgrim Reaper as well. And to also, if you get it out just by doing 2 level 6s, you can get a Wyvern out easily. So you have a lot of options with this card. And of course, 1 M7 to recycle back whatever monsters you choose via BLS, Red Eyes, anything you want, you've got it with this card. And plus, its stats are really good too, attack-based and defensive-based. Well, more so attack-based, since he is pretty high. 1 Dante, it's basically a Dark Destroyer for the deck. You can dump a Burning Abyss, draw a card via on your opponent's turn or your turn, and if it dies, you can discard a card from your opponent's hand. And the cool thing is it can't be targeted by anything, so it's really, really useful at times. And it's easy to get out if Beatrice dies by your opponent's hand. So say if they play Raigeki, you have no problems. If your Beatrice gets hit by a monster, you have no problems. Next we got 1 Virgil, because like I mentioned earlier, you do run Rubic in the deck, and it's really good for getting rid of unsavory cards that can put a damper on your strategies. And then for the rest of the Synchro lineup, 1 Michael, no explanation needed, it's really, really useful. I wish it were generic, otherwise, yeah, it's still pretty good, since you do run the Lightsworns in the deck. 1 Black Rose, when in doubt, always nuke the field, and it can benefit you if you have a Lightpulsar. Still 1 Strap Dragon, because in any case, it can really be useful. And lastly, 1 Scarlight. Anyways, hope you all enjoyed this deck profile I put together. Please leave a like and favorite if you enjoyed. If you have any suggestions, leave them. I'm open to them. I may make another engine that revolves something outside of that overall. But anyway, hit me up in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, this is Smash Adams signing out.